Hello everyone, welcome to Tactica Imperialis and to today's video. Today is going to be a my thoughts on video, and I wanted to talk today about burnout. Something that I'm sure many hobbyists have come across at some point, particularly if they've been around for a while. Burnout is kind of an ambiguous thing, but it's also something that a lot of us deal with in our own ways, and it's also something that could be very, very useful. And I'll explain that a little bit later. But before we get to that, I just want to talk about what burnout sort of is, at least to me, how I've dealt with it, because it's something that a lot of us will go through at one point or another during our time in the hobby, for one reason or another. So, what is burnout? This sort of ambiguous, hand-wavy thing that I'm referring to. Burnout, to put a long story short, at least as I define it, is basically becoming, well, burnt out on a project or a game or an army, and just having a lack of interest, losing interest, and almost becoming apathetic toward that thing in question. This can happen for a number of reasons. It might be you've been working on the same project for a long time. It might be you're on a losing streak with a particular build or in a particular game system. It may be that you've come across something new, but you're kind of stuck finishing something old. It can happen for a number of reasons, and it's something that can have varying degrees of effects. So for some people, it will stop them from wanting to work on a project. Some people will full on stop from working on a certain project or playing a certain game if they are burnt out with it because it just holds no interest for them. For some, it may just cause a decrease in productivity. They may still be able to do what they want to do or game when they want, but they'll want to do it less often. It will be a case of decreased productivity or a lower frequency of gaming or an increased frequency of experimentation as they try and find a new source of interest to get around the fact that they're being burnt out and kind of fed up with what they're working with at the time. And this is something that's happened to me on multiple occasions. Probably the best story I have is, well, the origin of this channel. I've told it before, but this channel came about because I was burnt out on Warhammer 40k. I was 17, I was losing all the time, I didn't have an army that I particularly liked. My orcs I'd been collecting for years and had gone on the back burner. I think I'd gone through a Necron army and I was playing an Imperial Guard army at the time, and I just wasn't that into it. For one reason or another, probably because I was losing a lot and the models weren't all that interesting and I didn't want to collect loads of them, and I just got a bit fed up. And one of my friends noticed this, and they were a YouTuber themselves and said, hey, you should start a channel, because you clearly still enjoy 40k, but you're just not enjoying playing it right now. So why don't you start a YouTube channel, do something with that? And I did. And 5 years later, here we are. Tactica Imperialis is a thing, and we're still going pretty strong, I would say. So hobby burnout caused this channel to come into existence, as an example. And it's happened to me many times with hobby projects. I've decided that, you know what, I don't really want to finish this project, or this unit is kind of boring to work on. I don't want to work on it. And that's happened to me so many times. I've got a box of Kroot that I've not finished. I've got some 30k Marines from the Burning of Prospero that I've not finished. I've got some Stormcast that I've not finished. Because right toward the end of the project, or at a certain point, I've got burned out and got fed up with it and not wanted to carry on. And normally I've then just jumped ship and gone and done something else because I've got the time and funds to make that happen. I appreciate that's not the case for everybody. I'm in a very privileged situation in some ways. But I had the chance to do that. I had the chance to jump ship, do something else, and then come back to it when I was more interested. So how do you go about dealing with burnout? Because everyone has, I'm sure, their own tips and tricks and methods that they use when they're getting fed up with a project. Maybe they're used to painting small squads, but now have been commissioned to paint a 1,000 point army. Maybe they've always played Necromunda, but now want to go and play full-on 40k. I don't know. Maybe they've just changed to a new army, or they're starting in a new game system, and they've got kind of fed up with it. How do you deal with that? So what I encourage you to do as well is leave your own suggestions in the comments below. This is just my ideas that I use when I'm getting burnt out. And I'm sure everyone has their own methods, and I encourage you to leave them in the comments so that people can look at different approaches they can try if they run across this sort of burnt out feeling in the future. So my main method, as I've already alluded to, is to step away and do something else. Because one of the worst things, in my opinion, that you can do when you're stuck in a burnout situation is to just keep slogging through. Because to me, that doesn't help anything. You're still not going to enjoy working on what you're working on because you weren't enjoying it anyway. So it's only going to get worse, which means that you're going to be less likely to want to do it, which means you're going to feel more obligated to keep slogging through, but you're going to want to do it even less. Rinse, repeat, it gets worse and worse and worse, and eventually you just give up. So I think the best thing you can do is, if you're able to, step away from whatever it is that is causing this burnout and go do something else. Whether that's a case of, okay, I'm halfway through these 50 skeletons and I'm kind of sick of painting skeletons, but I have a vampire lord in my army list. Let's go and paint a vampire lord. Or it might be, oh, for goodness sake, I'm sick of painting these armor panels on my Lehman Russ. I want to do some guardsmen for a bit just to break it up. It might just be a case of breaking a project up so that you've got a big block of something to do, just segment it a bit, do bits in between, sort of as rewards for reaching certain milestones, or just as changes of pace whenever you feel you need it, so that you don't end up getting burnt out, fed up, and not completing anything. Because if you get to 35 skeletons and you really cannot do any more, you won't finish those skeletons. So you need to do something else if you want to keep working on that project, otherwise that project then grinds to a halt. And the same when it comes to gaming. Because if you're on a losing streak in a game system, or your army is just not working the way it's supposed to for you, or the way it's supposed to in your head, then doing the same thing over and over is the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing and expecting the same result. It's not gonna help. So my advice at that point, if it's a game system thing, is to... Sorry, I'm just gonna keep fiddling with the lighting. Is to change it up. Whether that means rewriting a new list and trying some new builds, whether that's small changes, like maybe changing your relics, or just changing out a couple of units that aren't performing, or whether it's a complete rewrite from the ground up, where you do something completely brand new and off the cuff with your army, whatever. It might be going and playing a different game system for a bit. So I've been burnt out on playing 40k, I've already mentioned it once, and I've kind of had that as well quite recently. I haven't really had an interest in going and playing Warhammer 40,000 quite recently, so I've been playing and collecting Age of Sigmar because that has had my interest right now, by the fact that I've done 2 giant hobby projects in it. The lore's been really developing, and whilst I still enjoy 40k, by the fact that I still make 40k stories videos and I still enjoy the universe of 40k, I haven't been as inspired to play games in it for one reason or another. Mainly because Sigmar's a bit more intuitive and 40k is a bit more crunchy. Doesn't really suit my play style. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I haven't played with some of my armies very much, because of the fact that I was away for so long and then I've been back at university and not really had a chance to play 40k. I don't know. But I haven't really had that inspiration to play 40k for a while, so I've stepped away from it, gone and played Sigmar, and thoroughly enjoyed myself. So there are a lot of things you can do in terms of stepping away or changing things up to sort of keep yourself invested, because once you're completely de-invested, at that point you're kind of done. It means you kind of got to start again, do something completely new. So try and change little things, and if that's not working, change something bigger, and if that's not working, step away and do something else entirely, if you can. I appreciate that not everyone's got the funding to just go and start a new army or do a new gaming system on the fly. I appreciate that, but if you've got the ability to step away, do so. And it might be you don't do anything hobby related for a while. It might be you get to the end or toward the end of a project and you just stop for a month. You don't touch them. They go away in a box or on a shelf for a month and you don't touch them until you'll feel that you're ready to go back and restart them. Now, some people can power through, and one of the things I would advise if you're going to try and power through is to set deadlines and work to deadlines. If you're one of those sorts of people, you can either use a reward-based system like I've discussed already, or you can set, right, I want this army done by this date so that I can do this. Maybe you're going to go to a tournament, So I want 2k points so I can go to that tournament and do what I want. I've got a friend who I'm working with in a doubles tournament at 1500 points. I need this army done, and I'm going to work to that deadline. Whatever it happens to be, set yourself deadlines, both arbitrary and literal, that you can work to. Because if you can power through and chase those deadlines, which is something that some people are really, really good at doing, that might help you not break the burnout, but at least get over the hill that the burnout is providing by getting to the end of it, and then you have the freedom to do whatever you want afterward. Just, you've got options. And I'm sure there'll be plenty more in the comments if people have left them, so that you can look at different suggestions, things that are maybe a bit more viable than some of the things I've suggested. But one of the other things that I really suggest you do is to use burnout to your advantage. Because when you're burnt out on something, it could be that a certain army no longer interests you, or a certain unit no longer interests you. That is the perfect time to be inspired. Let me give you an example. So I'm not supposed to be working on any models now for a period of time. I'm going to go home for the summer. I've got things to do to set up for my teacher training next year. But while I was in GW, I was getting a book while I was going on holiday, so I had something to read. I decided to get a model that I could work on when I got back in September, because I wanted something that I could just have on my shelf and on my station that I can work on as soon as I get going, so I don't have to think about it. So I bought a Nicelian King to expand my Idnet Deepkin army, and then I got to reading. I was reading Hamilcar, Champion of the Gods, and I'll talk a bit more about that on Adeptus Podcast this week. And I started reading about this warrior princess. And I looked to my left and I saw a Daughters of Cainhead that I had lying around from an old conversion attempt that I tried to do and failed. And then I looked to my right and I saw this Nicelian King box that I hadn't put in a cupboard or anything. I just left it out and I saw it. And I looked down, I looked at this head, and I looked at this box, and all the gears in my head went into overdrive. The light bulb came on, and it was forward page, throw book off to one side, grab box, grab clippers, grab glue, go. I was just taken straight away. I needed to do this and strike while the iron was hot. I took that inspiration from just this little passage in a book, and I went and did it. And 7 hours later, this happened. I actually completed the entire model. So this is my Nicelian Queen for my Idnet Deepkin. You can see some better pictures on Twitter if you want. Link in the doobly-doo if you want to see it a bit closer up. And that was a model I wasn't going to work on for 2 months, but I got hit with a blast of inspiration, and I did it. And it's the same thing has happened many, many times. The origins of this channel. I was burnt out on 40k, I got a bolt of inspiration from someone telling me to start a channel, and I did, and now here we are. I was kind of fed up with playing 40k and collecting my town for a bit, and then Burning a Prospero came out, bang, light bulb, lightning bolt of inspiration, went and bought Burning a Prospero. Never quite finished it, but I was inspired at the time, and I went and did it, and it refreshed me to come back to my town and work on 40k. Was feeling a bit burnt out on Stormcast over summer, hadn't quite got them finished, didn't want to do that Night Vexilor conversion, even though I'd already done the conversion, I just had to paint the bloody thing, didn't really want to do that. Okay, bang, new academic year, new hobby project, Elfin Adventure Season 2, let's go. That is one of the best things you can do, if you can, when you're burnt out. Because when you are burnt out, or on the edge of burning out, inspiration can just hit you from anywhere. It can be that you're feeling a bit fed up with the army build that you're working on, so you go into your codex or battle tome or novel of choice, and you just flick through it, and something will hit you. And the little cogs start turning. You might be looking for a new army to start as you get toward the end of a project, and you see something, and the light bulb comes on, and you go. It might be you're browsing the YouTubes, and you're going through the 40k Stories playlist because you're bored, and you find something in the playlist of a faction that you'd never considered before, and ding, the little light bulb comes on, all the little cogs start whirring, and you're off. So what I can say is the best thing you can do is, if you are able to channel that inspiration, when that light bulb comes on, follow the thread that it gives you. When you have a jolt of inspiration, chase it, if you can. Now, there are some people, you might know them as squirrels, There's someone in my Discord server calls himself a squirrel. Or a hobby butterfly, someone who jumps between projects all the time, is constantly working on something different and something new. And those people are the type who will be taken by their inspiration. They'll be guided by their instinct. And wherever that light bulb bangs on, they'll go and chase it. It can be annoying, but in some ways I'm kind of envious of those people because they have the ability to jump whenever they want and never have to worry so much about burnout because they've always got something to jump to. So if you can, have a couple of projects on the go. Have a 40k army on the go and an AOS army on the go. Have a high painting fidelity army on the go and have a high gaming quality army on the go. If you can. Whatever it is, so that when you get hit by a bolt of inspiration, you can chase it. One of the best things about this hobby, aside from the absolutely fabulous community that many of us have cultivated, is its breadth and its depth. There is so much in this hobby for everyone. There is something for literally everyone in this hobby. Whether you are a sculptor, a painter, a gamer, a collector, a reader, a writer, whatever sort of aspect you are as a person, there is something here for you. There really is. Whether it's in fantasy, Sigmar, or one of the specialist games, there is something here for you. And that's so beautiful because it allows you to do what works for you, what benefits you, and when that inspiration takes you, you can just go and do it. So chase it. That, I suppose, if I have a takeaway, is when burnout hits you, look for that bolt of inspiration. Do some reading. Do some looking around of other things. Tinker with stuff in your codex or your battle tome, and try and find something that clicks, that sparks your interest. Because if it does, and you can run with it, it can take you to all sorts of beautiful results. From a brand new army, like my Tau, which was done because someone told me to do a lore video, I did it, I got inspired, and now I have a Tau army. It might be that you find a beautiful miniature online and you want to build an army around it. It might be you read some cool lore in a codex somewhere, and that inspires you to add that unit. It could be you find someone using a new build at a tournament and think, oh, I want to try and replicate that, but with a bit of a twist. Whatever it is, if you can chase the bolts of inspiration, do so. Because the results can be amazing. And I realize that there are some people for whom that's not possible. Some people don't have the funding or the time to be jumping from idea to idea and project to project. And I understand that, and I know that that's difficult. But if you're suffering from burnout, look for something. It might be that you stop painting for a couple of weeks and go and do some reading. It might be you stop gaming for a few weeks because you want to try some new units. It might be you just play something else for a few weeks. Doesn't matter. Whatever happens, the last thing you want to do is let burnout beat you. Because if burnout beats you, then you're out of the hobby for a while. It might be a few weeks while you get your head back in the game. You might never come back. It's a rare case where that happens. This hobby is almost eternal. But it can happen. People can get so burnt out on the hobby that they just sell up and quit. And that's fine. But we want to avoid that. You want to avoid that. I want to avoid that. I don't want to get burnt out on this hobby and leave. Good grief, no. No, I've had so much fun in this hobby. I never want to stop. So, if burnout takes you, find a way to deal with it. It might be methods I've suggested. It might be things that the people in the comments suggest. And when you get inspired by something, run with it. Run with it as far as it takes you. As far as you can take it. Because the results may well astound you of what you can create when you're inspired. It might be you're able to write a brand new piece of homebrew. It might be, like me, you paint an entire model in 6 hours with a conversion just because you read something in a book. It could be anything. But let your inspiration guide you if you can, and look what results you can get. So, I suppose that's all I really wanted to say. I've been wanting to talk about burnout in a video for ages. I've talked about it here and there in all sorts of different videos and all sorts of different topics, but I wanted to give it a full video, and I hope that if you are someone who suffers regularly from burnout, you're able to find a workaround that works for you. And if you have the ability to be inspired, which you really should, there's always something out there that you're able to run with it, because, oh, the results are so worth it. So, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, both your experiences with burnout and those bolts of inspiration, as I keep terming them. Always interested to see what you have to say, and it can be some real advice and help for other viewers as well if you want to get involved. So, thank you very much for watching Tactica Imperialis, and I'll see you all again. Bye for now.